All right. Hello and welcome back to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports Network production. That's Willow. I'm Crystal. And I have a returning guest today. I have Emily back to chat about the Yankees. So, Emily, please introduce yourself again.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I am a Yankees fan. You can find me on Twitter at MSheDoesIt. And I almost said suffering Yankees fan, but now is not the time for me to say anything like that.
No, you don't have suffering right now. Oh, no, well, that said, what is new with the Yankees?
They've been playing really well. It's tough to all season, even when they had that down month, basically, and down for them. It's tough to stay mad at a team that has Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in the lineup every day. Like, I just feel so lucky to watch them play in the laundry that I root for. So everything around them has been okay so far. They somehow managed to stay right at the top of the division because luckily the Orioles kind of crap the bed at the same time as them, and they are not really they both lose on the same day, they win on the same days, so they've just been jockeying with a half game for position the entire time. So it's okay. This is a better team than I've seen in the last few years from the Yankees, for sure.
Yeah, you guys definitely won out with Juan Soto coming, because now, as if you didn't have enough power with Aaron Judge and Stanton when he's healthy, and like you didn't have enough power, so you had to go after Soto too.
Yeah, we're gluttons over here. What can I say?
It's funny because the Dodgers are paying money for everyone and can't make it very far, and the Yankees just needed like one person to be added for them to be in first place all the time.
Judge, I mean, I can't overstate, and I know anyone listening to this and watching this knows what Judge is doing and the kind of player that he is, but I can't overstate just how incredible he is. I mean, his numbers speak for themselves, but it's just when you watch him, this game is tough. Like, when you watch every day, you have to look at the stats, right? Because there's so many opportunities. So it's hard to really gauge, like, oh, this guy's doing well, this guy's not doing well on a grand scale. With Judge, you can. He looks like a 210 weighted runs created plus player. Like, you just watch it. He's a must-watch TV just all the time. And Soto's not bad either.
No, that's been interesting. I've caught a few games this season. I try to watch every team a couple times at least. And I'm just amazed because last year I went to Yankee Stadium for the first time and I was excited to go there. And they were playing the Royals and Aaron Judge was injured. And it was just not a good, like, thankfully, the stadium itself is really neat. And I was just so excited to be there in general. But I was like, this is the game I get? I get to look at Giancarlo Stanton. That's about it.
Which isn't half bad.
No. I mean, it was fine. We were like right behind him, and I was like, okay, well, this view is fine, but this would be fun if it was like a competitive game.
I feel your pain. I mean, obviously you only visited here, so it's not the same, but I still will talk like to my fiance about how I feel robbed, and we were robbed of last year of Aaron Judge, that it would have been another season like 2022 and this year, and I'm just going to be upset about that forever. And I hate, like, MLB TV will like show that clip and stuff, and it's like, why are you showing this? This is horrible. Like, this traumatized me. Please don't show this. I'd rather see Tyler Fitzgerald in his 5th home run for the 1,000th time.
Right. Oh, I don't know what it's like to hit home runs.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. This podcast has turned so depressing this year. Like, last year I was so excited and like full of life, and this year I was like, so I mean, you're gonna beat our team anyway, but how are you gonna do it?
I'm glad you guys won, though.
Thank you.
That was exciting.
I was both excited and really disappointed at the same time. Like, I was happy that they did finally win. I was happy that I made a Taylor Swift joke ahead of the game. But then at the same time, I was like, I really kind of want to just watch them beat that record and be the worst team ever.
That is true. That I did low key. I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't want to sound like a jerk, but I was low key, like, not hoping that they'd lose. Like, I was relieved that they won, especially for the guys and
Yeah.
the fans, obviously. But like seeing the looks, like how dejected, like I just can't imagine how tough it was for them to go to the ballpark every single day and still keep grinding. So I was really happy for them and for you guys. But baseball is wacky like that it is fun, that it can just, you can have a horrible stretch and then it's flipped on its head and it becomes somewhat exciting, even though it's still bad, because there's always just some sort of record to be broken, no matter what direction you go on the scale.
Well, I mean, the A's, they played themselves by playing Taylor Swift while they were warming up. They played themselves. That's why they won. They were just so annoyed, apparently, with her. And that
really?
Song.
They hate Taylor Swift?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't particularly care for that song, so I would be annoyed if it was playing while I was trying to warm up. But
yeah, I don't.
And I love her,
Taylor Swift
but
either.
I would be annoyed. So the Yankees and the Orioles, as you mentioned earlier, are just back and forth, like two siblings that hate each other. Who do you think is actually going to come out on top in September?
You know, that's a really good question, and I have to say the Yankees. I just have to. I just have a feeling, and granted, I have this feeling every season, and so it usually doesn't work out that way. But this team is really, really good, and I can't bet against a team that has Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in the lineup. So it's theirs to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And the O's have new life now. They brought poor Eloy Jimenez back to life. He's thriving. He's just out in the sun. He's living his dream in Baltimore. But yeah, I feel like I think the O's are always just kind of like on that cusp of being there and doing great things, but then they backpedal when it's kind of too late to backpedal. So I think the Yankees are just they're too scary this year. I think they're gonna go.
I really hope so. Yeah. I mean, you know, the pitching has been it's such a long season. It's so hard to try and judge like what version of the team you think is going to show up. I mean, obviously, you know what versions of Judge and Soto you're going to get. Everyone else is what you need. And you just have to hope that they are all on the upswing when September ends, not to quote Green Day on accident, but that is when you want to hope that they're on the upswing. And they haven't been in you know, the last few years. They've always been beaten by the freaking Astros. Yeah. So hopefully this is their year.
Yeah, and the Astros, I mean, they started off pretty cold. They've warmed up and they're doing better, but I don't see that being sustainable when it comes down to it.
Frankly, for me, I've been enjoying it very much. Seeing their fans just in immense pain on the timeline on Twitter has just been really fantastic. It's really added to the magic of this season.
Yeah, I love it too. I was actually going through, I was cleaning out like pictures on my phone, and I have so many like screenshots and just stupid things that I use. And I stumbled across that picture of those two guys that were dressed up as astronauts.
Oh, yeah.
And they just look so dejected.
That's right.
Like I had that picture on my phone and I was like, I can't delete this. This one's too good. I love seeing sad Astros fans because the White Sox hate them too. There's always like that little beef between those two. So
what's not to hate, right? They're so easy to hate.
They are.
And I love a lot of their fans. So if any Astros fans are listening, I say this in good fun. I mean, not the part about hating the Astros. I definitely want to see them lose. But I do have Astros fans that I really enjoy banter with, but I am enjoying seeing them sad. No, I can't lie.
No, I completely agree. I love my Astros mutuals, but man, I hate your team, guys.
Sorry.
And, you know, just like I love my like Orioles mutuals too, and I love a lot of the players on that team, and I'm excited that like they've actually given Jackson Holiday another chance after like the 10 days of him not doing anything, and they're like, oh, you suck, goodbye. But I think that team is still just too young.
Yeah, and you know, their pitching they've had some issues with their pitching. They've had a lot of people hurt. Obviously, the loss of Felix Bautista, their closer, for this whole season can't be understated. Yeah. And trying to fill that gap in their bullpen is impossible. So they've done pretty well, considering. Obviously, you know, they're going to win 90-plus games this year, I'm sure. So it's like boo-hoo on one end, but on the other, when it comes to playoff time, it can be tough. Take it from a Yankees fan, when you don't have a lot of starting pitchers that can go deep into games, your bullpen, no matter how good it is gassed by the time October comes, and it just does not make for a great recipe. You end up with things like, you know, Aroldis Chapman blowing 2 playoff runs 2 years in a row, stuff like that. How is he throwing 105 miles an hour, by the way?
I don't
mean
know.
to change the subject. That is crazy.
I am so disgusted every single time I see his name pop up. I'm like, I don't want to hear about this dude. I hate him. I hope his arm.
Why is he still around?
Yeah, I don't know why he's still doing anything, but you know. But speaking of pitching and the Yankees, you had a predicament at the beginning of the year with Gerrit Cole going out, but your pitching has still been so good that it's really weird that Nestor Cortes would be like the 5th starter. And Nestor Cortes is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Like, he's perfectly, I have his bobblehead. It was a giveaway day at the game I went to. So
that's awesome.
That was fun. But you guys went from losing your ace to finding like almost everyone on this pitching rotation could easily be an ace. And I mean, I have love for Carlos Rodón anyway. Like, I've always loved him, but it was just wild to watch your pitching just not even be slightly affected by losing Gerrit Cole for a while.
It was shocking to me too. And, you know, and I have to say, I had all the faith in the world in Carlos Rodón. I did not think that last season was going to be him for the length of his contract. So I had a lot of faith in him coming back and being at least way better than he was last year, even if he would touch a little bit of what he was in previous years before he came here. And so he's been great. You know, he's had a tough start here or there, but I don't need him. You know, like, my thing with the pitching, and I was saying this at the beginning of the season, is that I don't need everyone to go out and be Gerrit Cole in 2023, like the Cy Young version of Cole. Just put the team in a position to be able to win a game. This lineup can score runs. You don't have to put zeros up on the board. Like, just keep it to 3 runs, 4 runs that this lineup can overcome. And they were able to do that for the beginning of the season. And, you know, I'm glad it happened in the beginning of the season, because it allowed them to have that rough patch and be able to weather it, because they played out of their minds. Even some of their position players were playing out of their minds for the first 2 months. And every team is going to go through what they went through, you know, like none of the teams in the league are the days of the 1998 Yankees are over, where one team is just so overly loaded that they just absolutely steamroll everybody. So if you're going to go through that tough stretch, it is much better happening in the beginning of the season. And a lot of it had to do with the pitching, that it kept them in these games, and they were just pitching out of their minds. Some of them have regressed hard to very hard, but they are still making it work somehow.
Yeah, it's been so wild to watch that all season. Because again, like I said, I try to watch games. I always try to watch Carlos, any start he has, but it's just because I'm so biased. I love that man. And he's had such a rough time. So for him to have this like really nice redemption story where he's, you know, throwing the ball very well. He's on, you know, America's team, because the Yankees always feel like America's team. They're like the Cowboys. And, you know, to see him come from just injury after injury after injury, and then throw a no-hitter on the White Sox, and then excel in the Yankees, and like, he will see postseason finally. He didn't really get that with the White Sox, so he will actually be able to see postseason, and I feel like go into several games. So it just fills my heart with joy.
Yeah, what I love about him is that he's so elite in terms of his mentality, that, you know, last year he struggled a lot with that, you know, just getting in his head. And this year he seems to be able to bear down a lot better than he was last year. I don't know if it's because, you know, he's feeling better, he's in better shape, or whatever it is, but he's had some starts where, you know, he gave up, I think it was maybe San Diego or something. He gave up like 2 runs or 3 runs in the first inning, and it's like, oh geez, but then he's able to bear down. And hey, I don't care what inning they score those runs, as long as that's it, then you've done your job as a pitcher, in my opinion. So he's been able to bear down in moments that a lot of pitchers can't. Once like that kind of snowball starts rolling down the hill, they can't stop it. But he's been able to, just keep it together. And I really respect that.
Do you follow his wife on Twitter?
Yes, I do. She's great.
That was my favorite thing. Anytime he would start, I'm like, I got to look and see what Ashley's saying.
I love a talkative wife on Twitter. It's the best. She's so supportive of all the guys too. And she'll tweet like during games when he's not pitching too. Yeah. I love it.
It used to be like, she was like, I only come on here every 5 days. And then it got to the point where she was just like, no, I'm too vocal. I'm too opinionated for this. It's like, I love pain. You, never change. Enough of me gushing about him. So obviously you followed the trade deadline. What are your thoughts on what happened with the Yankees?
At first I was mad, and I think it's because I actually was working from home that day. So I had all day to really focus, and I was waiting for a move that I don't think even was possible. And I don't even know what player I necessarily wanted, but I was underwhelmed. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that the Yankees' big move happened like the day before or 2 days before the deadline. So like just the optics of it not being part of the whirlwind had me feeling like feeling sorry for myself. But they filled some spots that they needed. And to be honest, there wasn't that much available. And I'm glad, I don't try to value players. I have no idea how to evaluate and assign value rather to prospects or even major leaguers for the most part, with the exception of some, rentals, so to speak. That I'm not even criticizing the Padres here, but I'm just glad that the Yankees didn't give up as much, because I know they gave up a lot of players, didn't give up as much for Tanner Scott, who I really wanted, because the Yankees bullpen has struggled a little bit and going into the trade deadline. Clay Holmes had been a little shaky, so it was like very reactionary on my part. And it's turned out pretty well. They got Mark Leiter Jr., and he's been lights out for them. They really needed a guy out of the pen that could strike people out, because they have a lot of weak contact guys, which is fine, but it makes stressful situations like saves way more stressful when a guy's getting on because of a seeing eye single. So they got someone who can come in and strike guys out. And Jazz Chisholm has been great. At the end of the day, he's a league average hitter. He'll have his ups and his downs. He had a home run tonight, but I just love his energy. I love his showmanship. I think that he is a great athlete, and he's been fantastic in a new position. And I just really love his attitude. And I'm not much of like an attitude girly, like giving guys a hard time if they're not gregarious, but I do appreciate it when they are. And he was so excited to be a Yankee, and talking about how the president of his country called him because they're all Yankee fans there. And it was just that kind of thing. I'm old enough now that that thing resonated with me, even though it wouldn't have maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah. And he had what I love about him is he has such this superstar mentality, but he's not cocky about it. He knows, I'm great and I'm fun to watch, but that isn't why I'm doing this. I'm just here to play baseball. I'm here to have fun. And I think that's just one thing that I adore about him in general. So I was happy that he landed somewhere where he could have a better time. Because I don't think
platform.
Yeah. I don't think down in Florida, I don't think that suited him very well. So I'm happy that he has a bigger audience now.
And there's a lot to be said, because I remember, and the stuff that happens with the Marlins it's not always a national sort of story, but I remember that, he was an easy guy. Cause like you said, he's an it boy, that he's just got it. And naturally that then brings attention to him. And in the atmosphere at the Marlins, their organization is not well run. They're constantly turning over their tables in a restaurant, the ownership and all the leadership there. So I think that, whatever he said, I think it was about Miguel Rojas, that he had some nasty things to say or criticisms. It's showed just a lack of leadership in the Marlins organization, that I knew that coming to a place like New York with a player like Judge and Cole and Giancarlo Stanton, these leaders in the clubhouse that have been in the league and are highly respected and really for all intents and purposes, good guys.
Yeah.
That he was going to thrive here, having that sort of leadership to just help him focus and not get involved, where in Florida, he didn't really have that. And he did pretty well considering that he was a really young guy with nobody to really support him. I guess besides Derek Jeter, apparently. That's like his idol. I had no idea that they were like that.
That's
But
adorable,
I'm just really happy for him and happy for the Yankees.
Yeah, he's fun. I'm glad that he's somewhere else because I think Miami is just so toxic too. That was the other thing. Like after they got rid of Kim, I was like, what are you guys doing? You guys suck now. And to have that superstar, I mean, he made it on MLB The Show. He was like a baby still. And he's already on the cover of, the most popular baseball game. So I think he wasted too much time down there. So I'm glad that he's happy and he's playing well again.
Me too. And they have him for, I think, another 2 years after this.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, that's good for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a very quick break and then we can talk about this series. Yay. Mark where we're breaking. Okay. All right. Welcome back. Now we can chat about this series. The worst team in baseball playing probably the best team in baseball right now.
Real grudge match.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Watch they win at least one game and it'll be wild.
Without question. Without question. I actually had more faith in them winning if they came into New York still in their losing streak. I knew without a doubt they would break it at Yankee Stadium.
It would be like Wario World for me if they do. I'll just think, okay. We're recording earlier, so we don't have a pitching matchup just yet, but what can we actually expect to see from the Yankees starting rotation?
I think as it lines up now, you're going to see Cole, I believe, on Saturday. So that means that, after Cole, I think it's Carlos. So it's going to be a tough run in the rotation. The weather is supposed to be nice. It might have one day of crappy weather, so that can throw a wrench into things. But Cole has looked better. He obviously had that weird body fatigue, which turned out I think was like diarrhea or something. So he was scratching from his start a few weeks ago. He's feeling better now. His last start was better. He's still not Gerrit Cole of 2023, and I don't think we're going to see that Gerrit Cole at all this season, sadly. Yeah. But he's still Gerrit Cole, not on his A game, is still a really good pitcher and can keep his team in a position to win. So I think it's not going to be easy for the White Sox.
No. Yeah, I'm not expecting it. I'm not quite sure. I know for the Cubs, I think it's Crochet and Flexen. So you're missing our one good pitcher.
Oh, thank God. I loved what he did, by the way, at the deadline. I had a lot of respect for that. It was awesome.
I just talked about that with Sarah Sanchez, who was on here for the Cubs episode. She asked me, she's like, what do you think? And I was like, you know what? It felt like that Arrested Development episode where she's like, oh, good for her. And I was like, that's exactly how I felt with Garrett. I was like, make sure that your needs are met because they should be. Absolutely. You don't want to go back to the pen. You want some kind of postseason. I totally get it. And you deserve it, boy, because you're so good.
And doesn't want to go and get used by a team that doesn't really care necessarily about his future as much and would just try to run him into the ground, maybe, especially with the rash of pitcher injuries, that he wanted to say, hey, I'm not going to pitch unless I get guaranteed money, because he knows that, pitching into October or being misused by a new organization to meet their ends, he could end up tearing, his UCL and then out for a year, and then he won't make the same money when he comes back. So it was like a revelation. I never thought of a player being able to do that. And it just gave him agency at a time in his career that he usually would have none. So it was pretty awesome.
And I mean, he just came back. He had Tommy John. So he missed an entire season. He was not a starter. He was a bullpen, sometimes closer, depending on what they needed him for. So for him to come out and be as great as he has been, because again, I don't know that anybody expected what we're seeing from him. Right. A lot of people were really kind of hesitant to get on board, and they said, he's the opening day starter. And I'm like, what? Really? And he's been blowing everyone away consistently. So it's really nice. And I'm just happy that he did that. And he set boundaries. Like, I don't mean to get into my like therapy language, but he set boundaries. He said, look, this is what we're doing. You're going to either pay me and like it, or you're going to skip me over. I don't care. So
people were like, oh, he's not a team player. It's like, this isn't Little League, okay?
No.
This isn't a high school team where the point is to like teach these young kids how to be men and women, you know, teach them how to have fortitude. This isn't a life lesson, okay? This is what these guys do for a living. So spare me the, he's not a team player. He should be about his life and his career. That should be what's very important to him, not winning a title for a team that he will only play 2 months with or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they don't have to face him this weekend.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to face it. I'm glad they won't.
You will probably see a bunch of our rookies.
They're guaranteed to. It's going to be lights out still.
Yeah,
because I feel this way. They're going to end up having the game of their careers.
Well, and that's what Jonathan Cannon, who he has been great. He's not disappointed. He's actually kind of one of the more promising ones. I don't know that Drew Thorpe is going to be back. He was just injured, but he's another one who's been really good. And
Yankees development.
Yeah, and then
he was on the Yankees in their pitching development.
That's right.
And he was traded for Juan Soto, part of that trade.
And then Davis Martin was phenomenal against the A's the other night. They ended up losing that game because they pulled him in like the 7th. He was at like 70 pitches. And yeah, he's probably on like a pitch limit, but at the same time,
why?
You're going to pull him and put like Justin Anderson in so they can blow the game? It's like Justin and Touki Toussaint. I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? Why?
Well, maybe those days are over now that they got Grady Sizemore in the manager seat.
I can only hope so. And oh yeah, we are recording this on the day that all of this was announced. By the way,
how do you feel about that?
The White Sox moves. Obviously the Raw is at the top. So until Jerry's gone, it's not going to be like a noticeable difference. But just knowing that Pedro is gone and a bunch of his like coaching staff, unfortunately, Ethan Katz is still there. I would prefer that he also left. But I'm just like, okay, well, Grady is a babe. He always has been. He's not 65 and up. Right. So he'll stay awake during games and he knows the rules. So
what more can you ask for in a manager?
It's only like the bar is so low. The bar is absolutely in hell for White Sox management right now. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to this Cubs series and just look at him because he's pretty.
He's nice to look at.
He's very nice. So at first I was like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, actually, no, it's fine.
It's a Cleveland legend managing the White Sox. Like that must have been pretty jarring for a lot of Cleveland fans.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah. So yeah, but it was exciting news. If I like drank, I would pop a bottle of champagne, but
yeah, I'm excited for you guys. It's nice to just have some sort of change up and for it to be Grady Sizemore of all possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, obviously I don't really have my finger on the pulse of White Sox news, but I feel like that was completely out of nowhere. So it was fun news to see.
It definitely was. And when we hear about Pedro, I'm immediately thinking, okay, well, it's going to be like Miguel because he's kind of next in line and then he gets fired. So I was like, okay, maybe not. So yeah, he was kind of out of left field because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to bring in like AJ or they're going to bring in Ozzy and it's going to be a disaster. But no, I was like, okay, never mind. Good.
I was thinking Ozzy too. I'm not going to lie.
I would not be mad if Ozzy came back, to be completely honest, because obviously you don't watch a bunch of White Sox post-game shows, but Ozzy has just been like hammering this team into the ground. He hates Pedro. Like he is not shy at all on the broadcast. He's just like, well, they suck. They didn't do this. And where's Luis Robert Jr. and what was Pedro thinking? And I'm like, yes, Ozzy, yes. One of us.
He's been the voice of the people. I love that.
So, because you've got like the more conservative, like Chuck Garfien, and then Steve and whatever his name is on the broadcast. They obviously have to be more conservative. They have to be positive. Like they're getting paid by Jerry. They got to be in his pocket. But then Ozzy is just like lighting a fire. under their asses constantly. And Frank Thomas, he comes on every once in a while and he makes fun of them. He was like, this team is so horrible. They're bad. Like, this is not baseball. This is Little League baseball.
I appreciate that because you know what? They know that they have plot armor. You know, like what are they going to fire those two guys? That's why a lot of people are still watching. So appreciate them speaking up on behalf of the fans. Just like I've seen some of the like Dallas Braden stuff do for the A's. Like I've heard guys and Joe Davis when they were playing the Dodgers a few weeks ago, heard him go off on them too. And it's just, you appreciate that sort of thing. You feel sort of looked over as a fan, I would imagine, because you feel like you're going crazy because no one is really mentioning it. They're not saying the thing that they should be saying. So it's almost like a gaslighting situation from media. So it's nice to have somebody that's got some semblance of a platform to have something to say and say what the fans are thinking.
Yeah, with the A's, they are just gaslighting. They've turned the replies off on their tweets since last season. Like, they have not been on. And it's funny when people realize that they turn replies off, because I was like, no, buddy, they have been off for 2 seasons now. Like, once they kind of mentioned the move, it was like, nope, we're no longer letting people reply to this. We're getting dunked in quote tweets, but people aren't replying to this because they're big on censoring fans and people that have things to say. I mean, I went there in May so I could see it before it was no more, and I had to be supportive. I wore the Cell shirt.
That's awesome.
And I went to go get a picture with Stomper, their mascot, and his handler was like, I don't know if we can take a picture of you with him. And I was like, what? And he like pointed to my shirt, and Stomper wasn't having it. So Stomper just like grabbed me, and like his massive mascot arm was like covering the word so that I could still get a picture. But they've like been told, we're not putting that stuff on TV. We don't want to see it on the broadcast. We don't want people coming up and taking pictures with those shirts on. And I'm like, well, I'm going to take a picture in front of that massive A sign when you first walk in with my shirt, and no one can say anything.
It's such a weird like rule to have because, like you said, you're still at the stadium. You're still at the game. It's obvious that you are at an A's game. You're going to be taking pictures all over the place. So it's like, just let them take the picture. Like, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, they
are so annoying. They're such babies. I can't stand them.
Well, the White Sox have gotten to that point too, because someone snuck in a banner that said like sell the team, and it was Jerry Reinsdorf with a clown nose. And it got like 5 seconds of airtime, and then they quickly like panned over, and security came and like took the sign away. So now if you're bringing like a blanket or a sign or anything into the ballpark, they make you like open it and show what it says, because they don't want another mishap like that.
That's too much power.
I know.
No one man should have all that power. I'm sorry.
No, especially not like an 87-year-old man.
No, yeah, like, and die already. Earth is for the young.
I think he's immortal. I do. Like, at this point, he's got to be.
He's a vampire.
Yeah, like my grandpa just turned 88 a couple days ago, and I was trying to put this in perspective of people that don't watch that team, because oddly enough, a lot of the guys in my family don't watch baseball. It's the women that watch baseball. So I'm trying to explain this to people that aren't really familiar with the situation. And I was like, imagine Poppy, who has some dementia. Imagine Poppy owning not one, but two Chicago teams and just running them both. Owning 2. Imagine Poppy, who forgets his dentures and napkins when he goes out to eat. Imagine that, owning 2 teams, 2 professional teams.
That's the thing. Like, and I apologize. This is going to come off slightly ageist if there's anyone.
Nope, I don't care.
In every facet of life, we subjugate older people who are like in their 80s, but we are just like kind of letting the ones that have a lot of money, we're pretending that they're able to still do things. And it's like, you are no different than any other 80-year-old. Like, you are exactly the same, and your money doesn't change that. So what the hell's going on? Someone in his life needs to be like, okay, grandpa, like, time to sit down, pop. Like, it's time to hang up your hat.
We took my grandpa's car keys away from him like 10 years ago. And
exactly.
Meanwhile, Jerry is still running 2 teams. And I know, like, we always make these jokes, at least like millennials. We're always making these jokes like, okay, boomer, retire because you can't rotate a PDF and you're making $30,000 more a year than I am. But I kind of be like, I want to just be like, okay, silent generation, it's time to retire. If you were around for World War II, I think it's time to go.
Silent generation.
Like, seriously, people, what are we still doing here? Why are we letting him like disable his key card?
That's funny. I was just thinking, I was talking about him the other day, and I even though I could have easily looked it up on Wikipedia, but I obviously didn't for reasons I'm not sure of. I wasn't sure if he still owned the Bulls. Is that the other team that he owns?
He does. He still owns the Bulls. He does not do like day-to-day stuff. His son, Michael, does, but he still owns them.
Right. And he's still alive, and he's still telling Michael what to do.
Yeah.
And Michael's still trying to get his dad to be impressed by him, and it's not working.
Yes, that is spot on.
He's Job.
Oh, man. So these are the really funny questions I have now that I've no longer been able to take seriously while doing this podcast. Which player on the Yankees will be the biggest threat to the White Sox?
I'm going to say Aaron Judge, the guy who is being walked intentionally in the second inning of games with nobody on base and 2 outs, or when they're down by 6 runs, they're also intentionally walking him. So I'm going to say it's Judge.
Yeah, that's fair. What are the keys for the Yankees to take this series from the White Sox?
The keys are for the pitching to put them in a position to win, keep a minimal amount of runs on the board, don't let the game get away from them, and for the offense to continue punishing other teams when they walk Judge. And, that's Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe to continue, and hopefully Giancarlo Stanton to come back. He's kind of doing his rehab assignment in the big leagues now. It's only been like a week or two. So those 3 guys making teams second guess walking Judge, which I don't think they will. They're still going to walk him, but It's been nice to see those guys kind of pick it up and pick up the slack and keep the carousel moving, even when the big man's put on base.
Yeah, like I said, you're probably just going to see some rookies, so they will definitely walk him and be terrified of him.
I would be too. He's terrifying, and he's like a Galadriel when she's like, "I would be a queen, not beautiful but terrible as a dawn." Like, that's Aaron Judge.
My favorite like Aaron Judge pictures to ever exist are him and his dog. Like when he's like running out on the field, and this dog is like the size of an egg compared to him because he's just so giant.
It is the most adorable thing. And it's funny because his wife is actually really tiny too. So it's like his whole family is just like these little tiny, adorable beings. His 2 tiny dogs and his tiny wife, and he's just this giant monster.
The dogs, like 2 dogs stacked up, are still shorter than like a foot.
Gus and Polly. They're like the little, what are they, dachshund?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. The pictures, it was when he had Gus. This is the most precious thing. And this man he's not actually scary, but oh my gosh, if I were to stand next to him, I would probably like have a panic attack. But he's just playing with these like cute tiny dogs.
And seeing the dog look up at him too, and the dachshund's legs are only like this high off the ground.
Like, I mean, because again, I have a corgi, so she's got stumpy legs, and me holding her, like, we look like normal sized. And dachshunds are a lot smaller than corgis. So I have to imagine someone that's like almost 2 feet taller than I am.
Which is crazy, right? Like
how
it's just impossibly big. And, like, it's tough to like see how and to really get a feel for how big these guys are on TV because they're all relative to each other. They're all large humans. You can tell how huge he is, even on TV. But then if you go to a game and you are in the 100 level, the field level, it's like almost you're speechless at how gigantic he is. Like, he could be a football player. People say, like, Eli Manning was on the Yankees broadcast the other day as they had a bobblehead for him, and he was like, he could be a tight end, like he could be a defensive end. It's like, he could be. He's gigantic.
He could be just like Travis Kelce, who's also gigantic. But I think Aaron Judge is probably bigger.
I think he is.
It's just wild to me. I've seen him in person, And yeah, I was probably at about 100 level. And it's just, again, I'm 5'4" on a good day. And it's like, oh my gosh, really?
Bigger than life, literally and figuratively.
But you gotta love him. Even if you hate the Yankees, like, you have to love Aaron Judge. He's another, like, meme I have on my phone. It's him where he's, like, giving the side eye, looking over. I feel like everyone knows that picture at this point.
Oh, yeah. I probably have a thought. My phone actually, like, on an iPhone, it'll show people that are frequently featured in pictures. It has like me, my fiance, my siblings, and then Aaron Judge, Manny Machado, and Giancarlo Stanton and Alex Rodriguez. They all have their own bubble. Like, that's how many pictures I have of these men.
That's amazing, actually. That's incredible. Oh, man.
It's honest work.
It is. It is. I love it. Now I'm gonna have to like see if I have any crazy ones. This is the best question of all. Do you have any actual fears heading into this series with the White Sox?
Yeah, I do. I'm a New Yorker, so I am pessimistic by birth.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think, the Yankees they're about to lose a series to the Angels. So this team will be able to sweep good teams and have good series, but then they will just not be able to make it happen versus like the worst team in the league. I think they split their 4-game series that they've had so far with the A's. And so, yeah, I'm very nervous. Like, you're talking about the rookie pitchers. I am just imagining they're going to be prime Greg Maddux when they face the Yankees and like prime Randy Johnson. It's just going to happen. You're going to see. They're going to have the best starts of their career.
I like your pessimism, personally. It makes me feel better.
It's going to happen. Don't worry. Andrew Benintendi is going to have his revenge series, and he's going to hit 3 home runs.
Oh, if that happens, I will tattoo Andrew Benintendi like on my leg or something. But he's going to be.
It does. That'd be awesome.
It's like his face, but a chicken tender. Yeah. Well, those are the questions I have for you. Obviously. Do you have any other just general thoughts about baseball this season? Are you having fun?
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, what are your hot takes?
I am having fun. It's not much of a hot take. I am, obviously, everyone listening can now tell that I'm obsessed with Aaron Judge. I am way too defensive of him. And of course, the MVP conversations have already started, and I'm getting frustrated by the MVP race in the American League between him and Bobby Witt Jr. And Bobby Witt Jr. is amazing. I love him. He's fantastic. He's not doing what Aaron Judge is doing. I'm sorry. So, like, my hot take, and I don't even think it should be a hot take, is that Judge is going to win MVP unanimously this year. His second unanimous MVP. He was robbed in 2017. He should have won MVP that year. Also, I have MVPTSD because of that year, and I'm very nervous it's going to happen. So I am now putting this out here on any platform that will allow me to just say that he should be MVP. What he's doing, there's still a month left, or 2 months, so anything can happen. But if he continues on, it should not be a race. There's no race there. Not saying it's a race in the NL, even though it's much closer there.
Yeah.
Shohei is a foregone conclusion for some reason, but Judge is in a race. But in the beginning of the season, it was Gunnar. Now it's Witt Jr. So maybe it's just some engagement farming. And obviously, I take the bait every single time. But yes. See, I've had this pent up, even though I wrote about it online today, too. I now just had to have a rant about it.
No, I love it. I love it. No, I agree. And especially after he beat that home run record, I still was like, why did he not win this? Like, this is absurd. So,
and he led every offensive category except for batting average.
Yeah.
That Altuve led in, but Altuve was great that year, so it's not even, just like with Witt, it's not even an insult. Altuve, that was the best season of his career. Mm-hmm. So it's not even so much that he was undeserving. There's always, every year for the most part, with the exception of years like 2022, there's always deserving guys. But, like, come on.
Yeah.
Judges has a 210 or 216 weighted runs created plus after 500 plate appearances. That is insane.
It truly is. I forget, like, how long he's been playing, too. No, I agree. I agree with you. I would be stunned if he doesn't actually win it. And Bobby Witt Jr. is having a great season, but I don't see that lasting. So we'll see.
And like, is defense, like, I know defense is important and he's a great defender, but now all of a sudden everyone cares that much about defense for MVP. It's that bridges the gap between like the 50-point gap that Judge has over him in weighted runs created plus, the 100-point gap in OPS. Like, give me a break, okay? Shohei Ohtani can't win as DH and not touch a baseball all season, and then Judge get put through the ringer because he's not as good of a premium defender as Bobby Witt Jr. Like, please get out of my face with that.
And again, Bobby Witt Jr., he might, make a Hall of Fame ballot. I'm sure he will at some point. But Aaron Judge is a first round. Like, he's going in first round. Like, there's no one can say that he's not at this point. They would not have watched a single game of baseball if they disagreed with that statement. So
yes, that makes me very happy. Thank you.
You're welcome. I know. I am not afraid to admit that he will be a first rounder Hall of Famer. So he's that good.
I can't even do it. I'm like, how do I?
I love you. She's making heart hands if you're not watching.
Attempting to.
That's what I've got. Again, just to remind people where they can find you.
You can find me at mshedoesit on Twitter. And if you enjoyed listening to this as much as I enjoyed doing it, you can listen to episodes of Breaking Balls, any podcast platform, and you can find us on Twitter at BreakBallsPod. And I just had a blast. Thank you so much for having me again. I love doing this every year. It's so much fun.
Thank you. You are the best. All right. Well, that wraps us up. We will see you later. Best of luck in this series. Don't be too nervous.
Likewise. I'll try not to be, but I will be. I'm going to be a nervous wreck.
Do I need to give you some of Willow's anxiety meds?
Yes, I need a few. Please send them my way.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys later.